Hey students, Alex from Mizu Education here. Today let's go through how to perform and master the multiplication techniques within algebra. So put on your set of headphones and let's zone in. So starting with the basics of multiplication within algebra, whenever we have a number that multiplies to a letter, also known as a pronumeral, for example, 5 multiplied by x, what actually happens is that we combine the two and there is no multiplication sign present. So 5 times x would actually give us 5x. The second rule is that when multiplying like pronumerals together, it results in a change of power. So for example, a times a times a times a would be a to the power of 4. Now, a key trick to improve your accuracy in getting questions right is to break multiplication questions down into 3 main parts. The first is to look at the sign. So are you dealing with positives or negatives? The second is to look at the numbers. And the third is to look at the pronumerals. So for example, a, b, x, y, etc. Now let's put this into practice by doing some example run-through questions. The first example is the following: 3a times 6b. So let's first have a look at the sign. For the first one, we can see that we have a positive 3a, and for this second term over here, we can see that we have a positive 6b. So we're dealing with positives. So whenever we multiply positives together, the result is a positive. And that's what we're expecting in our answer. The next step is to have a look at the numbers. So for example, we have 3 and 6. So let's go ahead and let's multiply those two together. 3 times 6 gives us 18. The third step is to have a look at the pronumerals. We have a and b. Now, because they're not like terms, we won't get an addition in the powers. Instead, they're going to join together. So a times b also just means ab. So overall, we can see our answer is positive 18ab. And it breaks it down into our sign. We can imagine there's a positive over here, our number, and our pronumerals. Let's have a look at another example. Minus 2m times minus 4n. So let's first have a look at the sign. So we've got a negative and another negative. Now, whenever we're dealing with negatives multiplying together, a negative times a negative gives us a positive, and that is what we're expecting in our answer. The second step is to have a look at the numbers. 2 times 4. 2 times 4 gives us 8. The final step is to have a look at our pronumerals, m times n. And we can see that whenever we have two unlike pronumerals multiplying together, it forms no gaps in between them. So overall, we can see that we have a positive, we have our number, which is 8, and we have mn, which is our pronumeral. Another question type is the following: 8x squared multiplied by 2x to the power of 5. And this specific question looks entirely at multiplying like pronumerals together. Overall, however, the process is still the same. So let's have a go at doing this. Let's first have a look at the sign. We have a positive 8x squared and a positive 2x to the power of 5. Now, a positive times a positive will give us a positive answer, and that is what we're expecting. The second is having a look at our numbers. 8 times 2. 8 times 2 gives us 16. The final step is having a look at our pronumerals. We have x squared multiplied by x to the power of 5. Now, in this case, what's important to note is that whenever we have our like pronumerals with different powers, those powers actually add together. And this is something that we'll be covering in the future with index laws. But for the case now, all you need to know, x squared essentially means x times x. X to the power of 5 means x times x times x times x times x. So 5 x's. And we can see that if those two are multiplying, so this is multiplying with this, altogether there would be 7 x's. So ultimately we would get x to the power of 7. And that is what appears in our answer. So overall, let's break this down again. We've got our positive at the start, that's our sign. The second is looking at our number, which we got from 8 times 2, which gave us 16. And the third is having a look at our pronumerals, where we did x squared times x to the power of 5, gave us x to the power of 7. Now the final question type looks at a combination of the previous two questions. However, ultimately the process is going to remain the same. So let's have a go. The first step is to have a look at our signs. We can see the first group over here has a negative sign, and the second group has a positive. A negative times a positive will in result give you a negative answer. So that's the first thing we're going to input over here. The second step is to have a look at our numbers. 4 times 4, that gives us 16. The final step is to multiply our pronumerals together. So x, y squared multiplied by y. Essentially, the y squared is being multiplied by another y. So we're going to change that power to a power of 3. So in result, we would get x, y to the power of 3. And the reason is, you can imagine this y squared and this y, because they are like pronumerals, there's going to be an addition in the power. Alright, now that we've gone through how to multiply within algebra, let's have a go at doing some of those practice questions. Alright, now that you've had a go at doing some of those questions, let's have a go at seeing how we can approach them. With question 1, we have 6 multiplied by A multiplied by B. And this process targets that idea of combining all the groups together. So combining our signs with our numbers with our pronumerals. So we have a 6 multiplied by A multiplied by B. So essentially in this process, all we're doing is we are removing the multiplication signs to group them all together. 6A, B, like that. Let's go to question 2. Moving to question 2, we have 7B times 4A. Same process. Let's start with the signs. We have a positive multiplied with another positive, so our answer will also be positive. The second step is to have a look at our numbers. We have 7 times 4. 7 times 4 is equal to 28. The third step is to have a look at our pronumerals. B times A. Now, because these are not like pronumerals, we don't incorporate anything to do with powers. Instead, we're just going to combine them together. B times A, we're just going to remove that multiplication sign. It would be BA. It can also be actually written as AB. Let's move to question 3. With question 3, we have minus 3C multiplied by 5C. Let's have a look at our signs first. We have a negative multiplying with a positive. Whenever we have a negative multiplying by a positive, our end result will be a negative answer. So let's input that right over here. The second step is to have a look at our numbers. 3 times 5. 3 times 5 gives us 15. That's our second step done. The third step is to have a look at our pronumerals. C times C. Now, because these two are like pronumerals, we do incorporate this idea of powers. So C times C essentially means C to the power of 2. And that is what we put in our answer over here. Alright, let's move on to the final question. In question 4, we have minus 9xy multiplied by 2x squared multiplied by negative y. Now, although we have 3 different groups over here, our process is going to remain the same. Let's have a look. We have a negative multiplied by a positive multiplied by another negative. So because we have overall a negative multiplying with another negative, that is going to cancel out and give us a positive answer. And that is what we're expecting. That is step 1. In step 2, let's have a look at our numbers. 9 multiplied by 2, and the final group over here doesn't really have a number, but you can imagine there's a 1 over here, but we don't need to include that. So 9 times 2 gives us an answer of 18. That's our second step done. Our final step is to group those pronumerals together. We have over here xy, x squared, and y. So let's group those x's together first. X times x squared. Because they are like pronumerals, there's going to be an addition in the power. X times x squared will give you x cubed. And now let's focus on the y's. We have a y over here and another y over here. Y times y means y to the power of 2. And that's what we put over there. And overall, we can see that our answer is positive 18 x cubed y to the power of 2. That brings us to the end of the lesson. If you found these multiplication fundamentals within algebra helpful, comment in the chat. See you all in the next lesson. Stay sharp.